Not really. All right.
We got six okay topics.
Yeah, one of them's a list, but it's not as exciting of a list as we had last week. So, and by exciting, I mean
You don't
really
think
long.
right? Way surprising long. Well, I think it was only 5 articles, and it turns out to be like 30.
Yeah, not like that.
We have a Facebook ad popped up actually during the live stream last week, telling me why my computer is being slow. So I just copied and pasted a link into the top of the doc, and now it's our first article. I haven't opened it. I saw this article, a new AI opposed to with the old AI. Deep nostalgia is what it's called. Reanimates photos of your dead relatives in case you just wanted to be really creeped out, I guess. I have a hard time believing somebody wanted this, but I could see some use cases, which is kind of neat.
It makes me think of Harry Potter, like those moving pictures.
Okay, so I didn't even think about that. But have you thought about all the pixels that are spying on you? This is why you don't check your email. You'll have pixels spy on you. I don't know, it's a really neat concept, which seems like you would know just because of how email works, but I guess you don't. So there's an article about it. This one I'm interested on your opinion on because it clearly does not affect me. But apparently some people get fatigued, or as the Americans call it, tired, after Zoom calls. And researchers are trying to fully understand, I guess, why people are getting so tired from video calls. I don't know. It's very odd from a guy that does not get tired from video calls.
Yeah.
There's this amazing article, which we were just talking about right before the stream started, about how many TVs you should put in one room. I'll give you a clue. It is more than 3. We'll talk about the most optimal TV setup you can have in a room.
It is less than 1. Maybe 1 at most.
Right. And then apparently we finally found the list that we were looking for from 2 weeks ago at this point.
Yep.
One day we'll get to this topic. We'll actually get to talk about it.
Wouldn't that be funny if it wasn't this week?
Oof.
If our first 5 topics just lasted for 56 minutes. So 5 common mistakes slowing down your Windows PC and what to do instead. So this is the article that popped up for you on Facebook last week.
And I didn't even open it. I just saw the link and was like, yep, we're going to talk about this.
And this is coming from Make Use Of, which their logo is mud, which I had no idea what mud was, but I've definitely been on the Make Use Of website. So
I think it's MAO, MUO. Make use of.
It must be, because that makes much more sense as an acronym.
I'm not a professional here, but I think the acronym is their letters.
With a word, but yeah, I mean, obviously it is the acronym.
Right.
It is MUO. You're right.
So I'm assuming this is a list of 5 things. Otherwise, it will turn out to be a week like last week, where we spent 25 minutes on one article.
Yeah. So, did you get this ad on your personal computer or a work computer?
Personal computer on my personal Chrome profile on my personal Facebook profile.
That's easily popping up as an ad on a work computer where, you're always researching,
right?
Or not researching maybe, but
at least
trying to speed up computers. Yeah.
So fun fact, on my work computer, I'm also signed into my personal Chrome account, so I can be on my personal Facebook account at work. Don't tell the boss.
So the ad profile is shared. Yeah, right. So the ad profile is shared between. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah, I use my private Facebook account everywhere.
Yeah, gotcha.
But yeah, so I thought, what 5 things could I offer my customers? Is how I saw this one.
Yes.
And then I already scrolled down to number 1, running too many programs at once, which we actually, I really suffer from with this live stream,
Yes.
to the point that we now, I keep using that I open Task Manager so that I can actually make sure my computer doesn't cry while we live stream. So I'm currently running about the 60s on CPU and graphics to do all of this, which is a lot better than a couple weeks ago.
Yes. Yeah, back when it was at 100%. So yeah, that can definitely affect how your PC runs.
And then, so like around 7 o'clock, I went ahead and just closed everything that I don't use. So like even Spotify was closed, just to make sure that I have plenty of overhead. No one's ever been like, man, we have too much overhead on resources. We need to use more of them. So what's number 2? Because running too many programs at once is an easy one.
Number 2 is failing to reboot regularly.
Okay, that's
classic advice is to reboot your PC when you have a problem, but restarting regularly is important, even if you're not troubleshooting an active issue.
So the big things that rebooting does for me is that sometimes you can only uninstall so many programs on a reboot, and so then you have to reboot it and it'll let you uninstall more programs. I have no idea why that works that way, but
yeah, that's weird.
if I clean up a computer, I can usually get like 5 or 6, and then it's like, in order to uninstall this program, your computer needs to be restarted, and then you restart the computer and then you can uninstall the program. Not sure why. It's not really worth figuring out when I can just hit restart, come back to the computer in 2 minutes, and then uninstall. Like, why figure out that problem when I could just accept the workaround solution? And then they list here that RAM, and so just being able to clear out the entire RAM cache does help out a lot. And then
because whenever you power your computer off, it clears out everything in RAM in your memory.
But in the new Windows 10 stuff, last few years, some Windows 10 reboots don't fully clear out your RAM, and so you actually need to turn off Windows 10 and then turn back on with the hardware button.
I could be wrong, but is it that when you shut down your computer, it can store whatever's in memory, keep that in memory, and that way when you restart your computer, it restarts faster, as opposed to reboot, which actually does clear everything out. Like if you actually go and restart.
Oh, okay, because I know Mac does this a lot too, where you can shut down but then open the programs back up when you turn it back on, and Mac does that where it writes whatever it's running onto the disk. Honestly, I don't know on that one.
I think I heard that's how it works with Windows, but I'm not 100% sure.
So if someone wants to sit there and turn off and on their computer a bunch of times in different ways for us, we'll find an article about that. But yeah, the big thing that I noticed for just rebooting your computer is you get those Windows updates to install, and that will usually either fix your problem or create a bigger one. So,
it's just a toss-up.
Right. Did you know in Task Manager you can see when the last time you rebooted your computer was? It's under Task Manager, Performance, and then under CPU. So I guess I can show mine. There's not really anything there. Uptime is 1 hour, 45 minutes, and 19 seconds.
Okay, so my uptime, that must be 6 days, 21 hours, and 57 minutes?
Yep.
Okay, yep.
So the current record for me personally in the store was 81 days with a customer bringing in a computer. So I just pop them open. It's like, let's see how long this one is. Most of the time, people are usually like in the 12-day to 20-day mark.
So is that for laptops or desktops? Because
mostly laptops.
When they bring in a desktop, they have to unplug it. Yeah. Wow, that's a long time for a laptop.
Right, you would think so.
Without actually accidentally running out of battery.
So, deviating from this article real fast, how often do you reboot your phone?
Not often. Maybe every few months, probably.
Oh, that's very not often. I was like, not often. Like, probably once every 2 weeks at most. or at
mean,
least.
I think the only time I ever really reboot it is if I guess I am doing something or I don't have a charger with me and I'm using my phone for something and it loses power.
Okay.
Or if I'm updating the phone.
Yeah.
But I never really just shut it down. Yeah, power cycle, reboot it.
So one of the
really
reasons I do power cycles is if I know that I need to use my phone for something mildly important. So like if I go on a motorcycle ride, I'll go ahead and reboot it just to make sure that anything running in the background stops running, even though I use the battery saver power feature. And I always like, so if I open up my phone and I look at all the open apps, there's 0. I always close out my apps. I still reboot it if I'm like, I'm going to go ride my motorcycle for 8 hours today. Like I want to ride it from sun up to sundown. I'll go ahead and reboot it just to make sure that it's like, that's good.
I'll close apps when I'm not using them, as in removing them from the, recent activity bar or whatever. But I don't force stop them or anything.
Okay. And see, I feel like doing a system reboot will force stop all that crap for me.
Yeah, for the most part. I'm sure a lot of it probably starts up as soon as your phone restarts. But
right.
Yeah.
It's the thought that counts. Speaking of counting, number 3. Clicking without thinking.
Sure.
Common mistake slowing down your... Okay, I guess so, yeah. I mean...
Don't download stuff from sketchy websites.
So the best part of this is if you can't see my screen. Clicking without thinking, and then just to the right of it as an ad that's blocked from my ad blocker. That's from their website. From clicking without thinking. Just click on their ad.
Well, I guess their website is not a shady site according to them, so you're safe.
Yeah. But what is shady according to their graph here is CCleaner for Windows 10. That is one of the images on there. Clicking without thinking. Which, I mean, is fair. That's pretty much how I make a living, is people clicking without thinking.
Yeah.
Not maintaining your computer. Whatever you do, don't do a disk defrag unless you know you are allowed to do one on your computer.
This is something that I've recently been having to do because a game that I play updated recently. And unfortunately, my C drive is just an SSD with 256 gigs of storage. Windows takes up a lot of it. The game takes up a lot of it. And every time you update the game, it actually downloads however much it downloads, and then
it
like creates a whole new version of the game before removing the old one. So say the game takes up 60 gigabytes of space, it downloads, the 2 gigabyte update, and then replicates the 60 gigs somehow.
Wow.
So it takes up so much space when I'm updating it. So I've had to clean up a lot of not temporary files, but just like unnecessary stuff.
That's so aggravating.
Yeah, it hasn't necessarily affected my performance, but man, it's frustrating.
So the fun fact on that is that for SSDs, it shouldn't affect the performance for how SSDs work.
True.
And that's why you should also not do whatever I just called that. Defragging. Because of how SSDs work, defragging will kill your SSD. And if you are using a hard drive, it's really worth the money to upgrade to an SSD.
It'll speed up your boot time a lot. Loading into games, it'll speed that up a lot.
It'll speed up Chrome. Just installing Chrome on your SSD will make it better. Just do it. Run maintenance scans. And of course, they recommend Malwarebytes. It is a little odd here that they would recommend end users to run check disk SFC and DISM. I would not classify those as user tools as much as I mean, those are as much of a user tool as doing an oil change is a user tool for a car. Like the user can do it, but should the user do it? Like, If you want to, you can.
I don't know. I've definitely never used either of those.
So that's 3: check disk, SFC, and DISM. Check disk is a little sketchy at the moment. It's with one of the Windows updates that has been out for a while now. It was actually corrupting the Windows file system and destroying it. I think that's fixed with this latest Windows 10 update.
That sounds like an issue.
Right? That was like a big problem. Thankfully, I didn't have to deal with it. But SFC and DISM I use all the time. And I mean, they're very useful, but
if you know what you're doing.
yeah. I wouldn't say they speed up your computer. I would say they would. That's like saying putting gas in your car will make your car speed up. It's more of like it makes something not working again.
Okay. So is it like a diagnostic tool that tells you what the issue is and then you can go in and solve it, or does like running it actually fix issues?
Yeah. So I don't fully understand check disk. I barely ever use it just because it seems to have a lot more problems.
Gotcha.
So SFC is System File Checker. And from my best understanding of that is self-diagnosis. So it's kind of like you just trying to figure out what's wrong with yourself. And so the Windows will scan itself and then try to fix any what they call integrity violations. Yeah, automatically. DISM, you can have an online variable to it. So I run it with online cleanup image and restore health. And so I don't know the acronym for DISM, but it checks against it exact Windows 10 copy on a Microsoft server, a Windows server, whatever.
Gotcha.
And it will check the health that way. And so then if it finds something that doesn't meet the hash requirements or, computer words, it will actually fix it there.
Gotcha.
And so most people run SFC first. That way it can probably run DISM next, and then they run DISM.
Gotcha.
But yeah, they're not really end user tools. They're available, but you're probably gonna screw your system up, right? Yeah, like there are variables that you can add into DISM, and it will make for fun times. Number 5.
Confusing your computer speed with internet speed. I feel like I might have this problem.
Oh, we're probably gonna get to that topic. Was that number 6?
Yeah,
the
right.
list we were looking for. Yeah, man. Talking numbers, we were like, how good is this computer? I give it a 5. The computer is 5 good.
5 on the goodness scale. Mine's at least a 7 on the goodness scale.
On the goodness. Oh, goodness.
Internet's probably about a 4 or 5, depending on where you live.
Oh, I guess that's true.
The grand scheme of,
Yeah, on the grand scheme of the internet.
Good.
Yeah.
But, yeah. In the grand scheme of,
everyone within 1 mile radius of you.
United States, yeah.
Oh my god, I changed my screen. Next topic. I already loaded
Wait, you didn't read the final heading. Now you know what slows down a computer.
That's everything. That is literally everything that can slow down the computer. There is nothing outside of those 5 things.
Not thermal throttling.
Yeah, not dirt, not soda.
Okay, if you're dealing with dirt and soda in your computer, that one's on you.
Right. Thermal throttling is actually a really good one. Old hardware, I guess, would be another good one.
Yeah. Speaking of old, a new AI, Deep Nostalgia, brings back old photos, including very old ones, to life. And it seems to be creeping a lot of people out.
Yeah, man, this is not okay. So I think it would have been a little more okay if it wasn't so creepy. The fact that it's unnatural is the creepy part. Her mouth is what gets me.
Yeah, so hopping into this article, the very first image doesn't look that bad to me, but then when you scroll down to the MyHeritage Twitter post, there's some definite warping going on
right
on this guy's his eyes, around his mouth, and his nose. and that is a little strange looking.
This reminds me of when you try to do the stabilization in some video editing software and it over stabilizes it into Jello.
Mm-hmm.
That's what this kind of looks like. It makes me very uneasy.
It actually really does remind me of, I don't know if you've seen Harry Potter.
I have, yeah.
But for anyone who hasn't, Harry Potter has, in their magic world, all the pictures on the wall actually contain people that can talk to you and move around. And this definitely does remind me of that a little bit. Wow, the ones of the statues are even creepier.
Oh, I haven't seen the statues.
Blinking and moving his head. And then the other, like, broken up statue above it is also
kinda... No, thank you.
Wow.
So where I do see this useful is for much bigger historical figures like George Washington or, you know, historical, just whatever historical. This would be kind of neat to put in like captivating, captivating museums. So like you could have Nikola Tesla walk you through the Tesla Museum or something. That'd be kind of cool. I mean, it would be just as cool to have just a guide you through it, I guess. Like, I don't know what I'm getting out of having the creator,
a specific person,
walk you through it, but I could see the appeal on it. So it's like something that will help captivate the kids.
Yeah, I can see that.
It gives an extra personality level to it too, I guess. But then doing it like something more personal, I feel is very weird.
Yeah, and I guess this shows how good deepfakes will eventually get too, I think. I mean, because all this is, I mean, it really is just a deepfake in a way. Like taking a photo and then either animating it or making it appear as someone else. Which I'm honestly not even really too worried about the whole deepfake thing. I think that we'll figure out some way to
detect them
or just verify that they come from a legitimate source.
You're telling me that's not really George Washington talking?
But so that you know, political figures won't just be, you know, deep faked and people actually believe what the video says, even if it's just the deep fake video. I think there will be some kind of cryptographic solution that will
we really hope, right?
Yeah, kind of like, well, you know, I'm not familiar with the Bitcoin technology, like what actually goes on behind that, but I think there will be some way to verify the sources of videos, or, you know, what different people say.
Speaking of verifying, it only gets creepier, right?
Tracker pixels in emails are now an endemic privacy concern.
So I didn't realize that endemic was a word. Apparently it is.
Yeah, and it obviously relates to pandemic, but I don't actually know the difference. I think.
All right, well, that's what endemic means if someone else wants to read all that. So, but the idea behind this is pretty cool. I don't know if you actually went through and read this article to a degree.
No, but I think I might be familiar with what it's talking about.
But I actually did kind of read it because I was kind of curious on what they were talking about by being able to detect the pixels in your emails. So if I were to email you,
yes,
you would receive everything in that email and you would be able to read it.
Thank you, Captain Obvious. No,
right?
Of course. You're right. Yeah.
That's how that works. So if I was to attach a picture into that email body, that would get uploaded through, let's say I use Gmail, hypothetically.
Yeah.
It would get uploaded into the Gmail server. And so that when you downloaded that email, you also download that picture off the Gmail server.
Yeah.
Right. So this is almost the same, but instead of me uploading the picture into the email, I am just grabbing it off of the internet, off of some server like Imgur or PhotoBucket or, image picture source. And I'm just putting that straight into the email. So now when you open up that email, your computer actually needs to retrieve that link from the server. And so your browser just automatically is like, hey, here's a link. Let's go to that server. Let's grab that image real fast and let's show it. The problem with that they're talking about here is that server now had a request to view that image. And so that server now knows like, hey, this person needed to see this image.
Yeah.
So if you become the server hosting the image, which is easy peasy for computer people, and then you put that link into an email and then blast it out to 1 million people, you could then see how many people opened that email by how many times that picture was downloaded off your server.
Yeah.
And I believe that is what this article is talking about.
Yeah, it is. So I think this article is specifically talking about read receipts, right? Or is that one thing that was mentioned in here?
I think
Maybe not. So basically the way a read receipt is exactly the way that a read receipt works is exactly what you said. I send an email to you, and in the email that I'm sending to you, I include, a link to an image on my website. So on jmartmedia.com/ pixel tracking image.jpg. And then I include that link in the email, send it to you. And then when you open up that email, it makes a request to my server that I own. So I get to say, hey, someone viewed this image or someone requests this image. And it would give me information like your IP address, probably because, it's that image to you.
And then within that, you get a generic geolocation. Yeah.
But what you would do is instead of just saying, this image goes to jmartmedia.com/ pixeltracker.jpg, you can also add on extra parameters on the end of that, something unique, so that I know which specific email was opened.
Okay. Yeah.
And I think that's kind of how read receipts work. So instead of like a cookie or whatever it is, it uses this like tracking pixel.
Yep. But yeah, I don't know. It just seemed kind of interesting to me that it's a lot like the spam phone calls that the more you answer them, the more they call. And so you just have to let it sit there and ring and ring and ring. And then it'll slowly ring less and less.
And I do wonder what effect different services have on these pixels. Like, for example, if you have a corporate email address, your emails are probably filtered through something to make sure that they're safe. So I wonder if the process of that filter going over your email to make sure it's safe, if that would send a request to the server.
Oh, okay. And so then the firewall, for lack of better, is actually just eating all of those requests. And so their server might be getting
those requests.
Yeah. What?
We're sending those requests. Like when it's filtering your email, it would send that request to the image server.
Yeah. So then that image server will be stuck with 100,000 requests or however many emails get pushed into it.
Yeah.
But then if you don't open it, then you wouldn't get a second request.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or like if you're using a VPN, in which case the IP address would be from a different source, but yeah. So I don't know exactly how that works. But the idea here is the reason they call it a pixel is because it's just a 1x1 image. So it's pretty much not completely undetectable, but it's very unobtrusive and something that users wouldn't generally.
And it could be a 1x1 PNG, so it could be transparent.
Transparent, yeah.
And Yeah, I think their target isn't tech people or people that have jobs where they have email protection. I think it is the people that are gullible enough to open a spam email.
Yeah.
Which is also tech people, as I usually open most of mine.
Yeah.
Please don't email me.
But using a Pixel for a read receipt, in my opinion, isn't really that big of a
It's not
deal,
a bad
you know?
thing. It's just
Yeah.
a tool. Speaking of not a bad thing, I guess.
This video is sponsored by
Jmart Media.
JMartMedia.com.
Oh, it's a .com now. And Nephew
Yeah.
Tech. My logo
.com?
slightly gets bigger every week, and he has yet to notice.
Really?
No.
It is pretty big.
It's huge, right? I didn't think about it until I just now saw it. I was like, wow. I mean, it has to be right. I mean, the spacing has to be the same. I wouldn't have done different size spacing.
Your image is way bigger than mine too.
Mine's long.
Because it's, yeah, horizontal.
Long. And it has my name in it. So I got my name twice.
Yeah. I don't have my name twice.
I debate on putting like both the logos on one side and then both the names on the other. Almost so you have like the logo branding on one side, and then it's like, and then your hosts are, and then that way I got my name on both sides of the screen. I was like, we both get a third of a third, or half of a third.
Yeah. Something like that.
It's a lower third, and we both get half of the lower third.
It looks like a lower fifth to me, but...
Oh no, I closed Brave.
And they're transparent. Our next article is coming from inverse.com. Do you get a little tired after being in Zoom calls? Researchers are researching you to see why that is.
So, by chance, you read this article, right? Because I lightly skimmed it.
We can say that, but no.
Okay.
So, are you ever on Zoom calls?
I actually have Zoom the Plague installed on my computer. What a terrible. No, for government actually. For the town hall meetings.
I remember. Yes,
See,
yes.
There it is.
So I do have some Zoom classes, school classes,
Ugh.
which I haven't read over this article yet, but I don't know if I would call these classes. I wouldn't say I get fatigued from these classes.
Okay, that's what I was curious on. One second. You just glitched out. We're gonna give you a hot second.
Uh-oh.
All right. So you wouldn't say
Can you hear me now?
Yes, you wouldn't get fatigued from these classes.
I wouldn't say I get fatigued, but
All right. Well, Discord really doesn't want you to say what you actually get. You're glitched out again. But so while you come back here in a second, I also don't really get fatigued from classes of this sort. Or not classes, of Zoom calls. And I think part of the big reason I don't get tired of Zoom calls is that I kind of enjoy the attention that the camera gives me, to the point that we've been doing this for almost 2 years. So I don't think that being in front of a camera is tiring, clearly. And now that I've started doing live streaming with some other people, I found that it's like, oh, it's not the camera that makes me tired. It's being awake for 12 hours a day that makes me tired.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, you're back.
Am I back?
Yes.
All right. Am I still back?
Until you say the word fatigue. You have to say tired.
Yeah. What I was going to say is I don't get tired on these calls, but I get pretty bored. But I think a lot of that has to do with the actual school and the way that it's presented, like the actual topic that we're discussing.
Okay.
Not necessarily due to Zoom itself. But at the same time, I feel like if I was actually in person in class, I would feel less of that boredom, because going in class is a little bit more interactive than going on a video call.
So I would put the argument that for the interactive part, it's kind of like watching a live stream live is a lot more fun and entertaining, in my opinion, than watching a live stream after the fact.
For sure. Yeah, for sure.
And it kind of has the same feeling where if you're in a Zoom, like Zoom is between a recording, which is like the low tier, and a live class. You have like that weird middle ground where it can work out really well, but then you have these professors that don't do Zoom. They don't do Zoom every day. Now they do. But they don't have the 15 years of practice that they do, like they do lecturing.
Yeah.
And so I think just giving a couple more years, they'll figure out that they're not a cat, and then and then they'll be able to figure out what makes the Zoom classes as interesting as in-person classes.
Because at the same time, for the teacher, you know, they're getting less interactivity from the student, so they're not as into it either. And it's not like fully their fault either. It's
right.
I mean, they can't see all the students' faces and see.
It's hard to tell body
how
language.
The students react. It's hard to tell body language when you're looking at someone's
from their
avatar
shoulders
on
up.
the screen.
Yeah, right.
If they even have their camera on, you know, which, in my experience, most people don't.
And when they do, it looks like a webcam.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So this article actually goes into 4 of the reasons that they found may be reasons for being exhausted from a Zoom call.
Which I find weird because, I don't know, to me it seems like these are necessary in conversations anyways, which might be why I'm super weird to talk to face to face.
Yeah.
Right. But
I'm not saying yeah to that, but
yeah, right. Like the first one is there's an excessive amount of intense, prolonged eye contact, which is like a creepily romantic way to say that, I think. Excessive amount of
when I'm talking to someone in person, I don't keep eye contact the whole time. That's for sure. Which I guess is kind of what this article is saying, you know. But when I'm doing a Zoom call, I just...
You don't just stand there and stare at the screen the whole time. I mean, you shouldn't be.
No. Am I still...
Yeah, you're still cutting in and out. But if you can hear me, I'll continue on that one. So like I had to join into a Zoom call for a finals during December. And so I just had to listen to a presentation from 5 people, I think, and just hear what they had to say about something that's not important at the moment. And I found myself the majority of the time just looking back at the camera, even though I wasn't able to look at my screen and watch them actually present it. I knew it would have been much more natural for them, instead of knowing that I'm watching them, for me to make the eye contact back with them. And most of the time, like, I would glance down just, you know, because I like to take in as much information as I can, and they'd be looking up at me. So I think we were trading off, which is like what you do. You look at people's eyes, you look at their mouth, and then you look at their body language and the surroundings. Like, that's how it works.
Yeah.
So I am curious if the people that are researching aren't talking or aren't looking the same way that they're looking in a real conversation. Like, they're stuck glued looking at themselves, which goes right into number 2. Oh, you might be back.
To see yourself for so long.
Yeah, exhausted to see yourself for so long. I mean, I'm not the most attractive dude, but like, I don't get tired of seeing myself after 2 hours of a video call. Like, I've never been like, man, I'm so tired of looking at my own face. Like, I'm sure if I just sat here for 3 days straight being able to see a reflection of me, like, it would get a little annoying, because there's the quarter second of a delay. But like, it's not that bad. Unlike
my internet.
Good Lord. So I say you might have to cut off video just to make this work.
Yeah. Item number 3, video calls prevent us from moving around.
I would
see that one.
I can see that one. I was actually on a video call with another guy a week ago, and you wouldn't believe it, but he was doing a video call on his phone walking. Like,
Okay.
you could get more moving around. Now, I
Yeah.
was sitting here because I'm rather comfortable sitting here at my desk with my 3 screens. But there are options to move around. Like,
I think for the most part, though, people are either sitting on their couch or they're sitting in front of their, desktop computer.
yeah. I don't know. Have you? So, I also sit in front of a computer a lot. So for me to sit still for an hour really isn't like the hardest thing in the world.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you're the same way on that. That if you're
Yeah.
asked to sit in front of a computer for 3 hours, you're like, okay, like sure.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think your body can kind of get into that kind of might lead to some of that fatigue.
Okay. And then number 4, I don't understand at all. Like, I could get behind 3 a little bit and 1 a little bit. But number 4, video calls require a heavy cognitive load.
I think it really depends on what you're doing. And I don't think they necessarily require a heavier cognitive load than actually being in an in-person meeting.
I definitely agree there.
If you're in an in-person strategy meeting, discussing the strategy of your business, over the upcoming months or whatever you do, whether you're in person or on a video call, I'm not sure, what the difference is there.
So like one of the things I had noticed recently, this is about to turn to a Jacob rant. One of the things that I noticed recently is a customer came in and take a picture of Bruce, my dog, and because he was doing the little over-the-counter helping thing, and they loved it. So they went to take a picture, and I didn't move. I was like, yeah, you can take a picture of the dog, whatever. And they showed me, and I didn't realize what I looked like when I leaned against the counter with my legs crossed. And so now I'm super self-aware every time I cross my legs in my store. I'm like, nope, can't do that. Looks ridiculous. And so now I'll probably never cross my legs in my store again. I don't know why. At some point, I will show you what I look like when I lean against something with my legs. To me, I look ridiculous. But like here, I'm slouched.
Yeah.
I have 1 foot up on my desk, and I am dumb comfortable talking to you for the last 42 minutes.
Yeah.
So, like, being a heavier cognitive load, like being overly cautious about yourself, I don't get that. Like, I know exactly what you could see. It's like it's 90% of the frame is just background. Like, you can see my folded laundry because adult responsibilities or something. But otherwise, like, you only see my shoulders and my facial expressions. Like, the cognitive load on that, I have to focus on less, really. It's the only big downside I see is to see what you're saying, I have to do that. And then to talk to you, I have to do that. That's a little annoying. I can't talk to you and look at you at the same time. But I kind of get over it.
Yeah, I guess all these things, we haven't really felt any of these 4 items, but maybe they're still going on subconsciously. I don't know. Or maybe it's that people who aren't as comfortable at the computer, it's different from them being on a Zoom call versus me and you because we're more comfortable with it.
Yeah.
Plus, we've been doing this live stream for,
I was about to say, I wonder
how many years?
Because we're hitting 2 years on
2
it.
2 years? Yeah.
If we didn't start this 2 years ago, if we would be uncomfortable with this. But simply having a year practice on top of everyone else, and then just the constant doing it has helped out of me.
Yeah. But I guess if you are one of those people who's kind of uncomfortable with being on a Zoom call, then think about these 4 items and maybe don't worry about your eyes. Maybe don't look at yourself for as long.
You said these 4 items don't.
Oh, yeah. So if you do feel like you're one of the people who isn't as comfortable being on a Zoom call, then maybe look at these 4 items and don't make as much eye contact, or don't look at yourself for so long, or get up and move around to help reduce that fatigue.
Yeah.
Which for us, I don't think it's that big of a deal, but for you, it might be. So
One of the big things, if you really want to get yourself out of the comfort zone, is talk to a camera that's just recording, that there's no one on the other end. That will get you over the fear of talking to someone over a camera.
It's way more uncomfortable. Yeah.
Yeah, knowing that the camera is watching you is way worse than knowing that someone is on the other side of the camera.
And I guess when I say, make less eye contact, I don't mean that in a bad way, because I know that it can be important to make eye contact for the speaker and all that. But I think when you're on a Zoom call, like, you're not other people aren't paying as much attention to you as you probably think that they are,
Right.
You're on a Zoom call with.
Oh, and
it's
you
not
cut off
all,
again. You're on a Zoom call with.
Focused on you.
Okay, yeah.
Contact.
Yeah, and I do think that's a big thing. So, like, even during the presentation, I was paying attention to them, but I was also writing notes. And so that way, as soon as it ended and everything was over, I was like, that was pretty darn good, guys. Personally, here are some things that, like, you might want to look at. And there was like 3 things, but like, in order for me to write a note, I have to look away. And so during those 2 minutes out of the 15 minutes, I wasn't paying any attention to what you look like. Oh, that is most unfortunate. I just realized that I never hit the go live button for me, so I just have to restream it again on my channel.
Oh,
I did the YouTube set schedule thingy, whatever that is.
Oh, gotcha.
That's unfortunate. Well, if you're wondering why I never went live today,
That's why.
that's why. I'll go live here in a second. Good thing I record these.
Well, on to
This topic that never
topic
happens.
5.
And honestly, at 47 minutes, it can almost not happen again. We're gonna make this last for
You're skipping a topic.
what? Oh
Topic
my goodness!
5.
Oh, we're not gonna have enough time. Are you kidding? There's no way you and I are gonna get past this one.
Could push it on next week and go with the other.
Yeah, let's do that because we're running way too close on time. All right, we're skipping topic 5, so just don't look at that on my description. It's very good for next week. How
We
much?
should
Oh,
go.
you died again. All right, you might be back in a second.
I'm
All right,
still alive.
there you go. All right,
I'm not dead.
wait, can you hear me the whole time your computer freaks out, or do I get cut?
Pretty
choppy?
much, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna do the CNET article about internet speed because it's never been more fitting.
Yeah.
So this is over on CNET. How much internet speed do you really need? So what do you have over there? Because I would say one step above that is what you really need.
Actually, I can do a speed test. So what do you recommend?
Fast.com all the time.
Fast.com. All right. So my internet could like really die right here.
Yeah, really good. Get it. I'm gonna do one now at the same time. Nothing bad's gonna happen.
Wonder if your speed test will beat mine.
I'm at 440, 450. 450 is what my download is.
Wow, that's about 10 times as much as mine.
And then my latencies are 11 and 13 milliseconds.
You're not gonna want to hear this.
My upload
10
speed is faster.
10 megabits per second down.
What? The big oof.
20 up.
Okay.
And 28 seconds of unloaded latency. Whatever that means.
Yeah. I have 680 up right now. And that's with me doing 2 uploads, even though one's not
Wow.
going live. Darn YouTube button.
That's actually worse than I expected. Way
Right.
worse than I expected.
So let's see how close CNET is to being right. I'm going to write mine out on Notepad. I don't know how they're going to be listing this, but I'm going to do like per average human.
Okay, so a few weeks ago we looked at I think it was Ookla's speed test, and when you do a speed test with Ookla, it pops up some kind of graphic that tells you what kind of content you can consume based on your internet connection, as in, you know, where will you not have to worry about the constant buffering and all that. And the graphic was kind of hard to understand, and so we mentioned, man, it would be nice if there was just a simple list that someone who is not as tech savvy can look at and say, hey,
this is how much I need.
How much? Yeah.
Right.
So here's that list from CNET. It says, how much internet do you use? And then it lists some different activities alongside the usage required, basically the minimum required, versus their recommendation. And so for video calls, they recommend 10 to 20 megabits per second, which we just saw that I have 10. Although my download is probably a little bit higher, but I'm watching your stream on Discord as we're on the video call.
But my stream is
probably reduced a little bit.
720p at 15 FPS. It's not exactly high.
Okay.
So that would be under HD streaming for the video, for my video feed coming to you.
Okay. So I'm kind of on the very low end of that spectrum that they recommend for that.
I'm right at 14 times the 4K streaming recommendation.
So you're good at what you're saying.
I'm not in a bad place. Okay, that is a very good list. I would actually agree with pretty much most of it. It does seem like the numbers run a little high. I wouldn't say 4K streaming needs 35 Mbps down per person.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Mostly because I think if you're doing 4K streaming, you would be doing it on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that uses 12, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. For 4K?
25 is what they're... Netflix recommends 25 for their Ultra HD, which is 4K.
Okay.
So you think that, you know, this shouldn't be 35. It would be Netflix recommended 25. Because even then you'll still have the overhead that they would... Netflix 4K. Bandwidth? I was thinking it was like 12.
I don't know.
Oh, it's saying 25 here too. It might be 25 now. Yeah. But I do think this is a much better of a list.
It's very straightforward and easy to understand. I'll give it that.
Right.
Maybe not quite as detailed, but easy to understand.
I do like the fact that the online gaming has a really low download speed and a really high upload speed. Mostly because a lot of the times upload speeds are chopped off in the doubling from tens. So you get choice are like 10, 20, 40, 100, 200 for your upload speeds. And so it's like 20 to 35. So you get like upload speed of 20 or upload speed of 40. But most of the time you don't have your internet package be 25 to 35. Honestly, I think anything above 5 for upload speed on online gaming is good. And I just realized I'm reading this whole thing wrong. It's not 3 down, 6
up. Yeah, the right side is recommended speed. Yeah. Oh, gotcha. It's
Right.
3 to 6. Yeah.
So video call's not 3 down, 5 up. It's 3 to 5. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Well, now I feel dumb. Ignore that part. Yeah, now I do like that list a lot more. with that, we're at 55
Well.
minutes plus the extra 5 minutes I have to spend to get my stream live. We're never scheduling a stream again. That's for sure.
I did get a notification that you were going live in 30 minutes.
Yeah. Right? It was pretty sweet. It was way cool, as the cool kids say.
I was so excited.
I'm glad I'm there to disappoint.
Well,
Lord.
I'll disappoint you next week because we'll have at least one topic.
And that topic's going to be super long.
A pretty good topic.
Yeah. It's going to be hard not to talk to you about it at all this week.
Beforehand, yeah, true, actually.
Because we're definitely in a disagreement, I think. The first time in 2 years.
Yeah, I don't think we're in that big of a disagreement, but yeah.
Sweet.
Technically a disagreement, maybe. Well, see you next week.
We're going to talk about all the things.